But today we are actually going to go in and we're going to be looking at one of the biggest new features in version 16 of LeaderGuide Pro, which is what we call the Guidebook Design Template. And it's a feature that's going to allow us to help you build your guidebooks much more simply, much more efficiently, really take it from, almost go right from an outline into a completed guidebook. So we are going to look at a few different items today. Let me just pull this back up. So for our quick agenda, we're going to be looking at, really what is that guidebook design template? Basically, the 3 basic steps to make this happen within the dialog box for the guidebook design template. How do you create your own custom templates? Then we're going to look at a little bit, once you've actually built something out with it, what if things that, you need to change up your structure? How do we handle that within the LeaderGuide Pro documents? And then lastly, let's say you don't like change. How do you go about this? So those are the big items we're going to talk about today. My guess is we're going to probably be around 20-25 minutes, maybe a little bit more. But at any point, if you have any questions, please let me know. All right, so to get started, let's actually jump over to Microsoft Word. And actually, I will point out, this is a great jumping in point. This is a feature of LeaderGuide Pro version 16. What you're looking at right here is kind of the new release landing page on our website. So I'm going to put this right into the chat. So if you haven't already gone to 16 or looking for information about it, you can get to it right from there. But with that, let's flip over to Microsoft Word. Right, so again, we're looking at LeaderGuide Pro version 16, so it's still an add-in to Microsoft Word. It shows up right at the, right up in the ribbon. And where the guidebook design template shows up is in the document creation. So if we go to start a document, and we're probably going to bounce and create a couple documents today. But when we get to start a new guidebook dialog box, this is going to look exactly the same as you see in version 15. If you're using version 14, it would look a little bit different. But just give it a name. At the moment, I'm just going to leave everything else as is, and I'm going to click OK. So just like before, it starts building out our documents. It starts, pulling in all those individual templates. Now, if you remember, in version 15 and earlier, one of the things, after you get to the point of saving, which is going to show up here in a moment, actually, let's come back so you can actually see it. So after we get to saving, in version 15, once it kind of laid in a few other things, and then you got a prompt about, are you ready to add images to your document now? What we've decided in just working with so many people is that getting your course structure in place, right? What are my modules? What are my lessons? That the outline that you've kind of built out, or from your design document, all those pieces that you've built out. That is imperative to make it a simpler process for creating materials, for having it make sense for not only facilitation but for learning. So we wanted to get you the ability to go in and build out that structure right off the bat. So flipping back here to Word, instead of getting a dialog box that says, "Are you ready to add images to your document now?" after you've gone through the process of, kind of saving the initial creation, we get this guidebook design template. What we're going to see here is, you on the left-hand side, you get to choose your templates. On the, in the middle, you get the names of what's happening of these templates. So these are your modules and your lessons. The right-hand side is going to be where we can put in our goals and timing if we have it. So we're going to come back to this. I just wanted to show you, we've got the ability to select some different, pre-built templates. Click OK, just so you can see what happens. And then we're going to actually come back and actually put it into place. But what ends up happening, based off of the structure that we put in that guidebook design template, when the document finishes being created, and on here where it's now asking, do I want to bring in images? We're not going to go to this step at the moment, but that's where we would get to it. The guidebook design template gives us the ability, and just so we can see, let's go to multiple pages. Just zoom this out so we can see a few pages at a time. All right, we still have all the upfront material, but it now goes through, and based off what's inserted into that design template, it puts in all the different modules that you would have and their corresponding lessons. Right? I just used one of the ones right out of the box, but this is what it's doing. At the time we create our document, the guidebook design template will take that course outline, our modules and lessons, and insert all the pages for those. So if you don't bring in your slides, you already have your whole documents, the structure of your documents laid out, and now we can start adding in information. If you have slides and notes, we can then go in and insert those and assign them to the different lessons. We're going to go much deeper into the PowerPoint side of it in the session in 2 weeks. We will look at it quickly today as well. But let's actually go back in and look at really what are the 3 steps of this guidebook design template dialog box. So with that, while we're talking, I was actually just kind of starting up another document so that we could kind of see this in action. All right, so I'm going to pop back over here so you can kind of, we can see our facilitator guide being built out. And anybody have any questions at this point? So I'm just saving that. And this again, so at time we create the document, after the kind of upfront material from our collection is inserted into our document, and we save, the guidebook design template comes into place. So kind of said this is a 3-step process, right? Kind of think of it this way. Step 1 is choose your design template. Step 2 is going to be to basically rename the modules and lessons to meet what you need. Step 3, which is more of an optional one, would be if you knew your module goals and the timing for the lessons or had a general idea, you could type those in. So kind of let's see this in action. So on these, on the templates, we actually give you several different options, kind of based off of timing and just things that make sound instructional development or instructional design. Right, so we always want to make sure, we have the tell them what we tell. We have an introduction and we have a conclusion. Right, so tell them what we're going to tell them, then our training, tell them what we told them type thing. Now, depending on your course, if it's a short 60 to 90 minute session, maybe so it's a single objective, right? Basically it's a single module, and our introduction is in here as well as our summary. Right, so that tell them what we're going to tell them what we told them. Or maybe it's a little bit longer and you want to actually have an introduction module with a welcome lesson and a summary module with a review lesson, and then the kind of the burger between our 2 buns. That's this module here. we've got it laid out for multiple objectives, so a 3 to 4 hour course, a 5 to 6 hour course, and you'll see as we scroll down, you've got, again, these are all laid out for us. We're going to talk about the manual as well as my custom templates in a few moments. But the way this works, so you select your objective. I'll just use this top one I'll use the single objective for this example. But now over in our second step of this, right, this middle column, we're going to come in. I need to get that thing turned off. But I can now come in and start manipulating the text in here. So anything that is fully indented, that's basically fully justified to the left, those are modules. And if it's indented in, those are my lessons. So again, I can now highlight this information, so content module, and I could type in what's the name of my module. Right? So let's call this module's building a facilitator guide. In my case, I'm going to leave my introduction. I don't need to change it, or maybe I wanted to change the name. I could highlight those. But now maybe my presents, that what we've called present, that's actually going to become 2 roles of a facilitator guide, right? And I can now highlight my next lesson, type in what I want. In my case, creating course structure. For this one, the debrief, right? Importing PowerPoints and notes, right? And then I'm going to do a conclusion. And so in this 60 to 90 minute session, that's kind of my course structure. So using this Guidebook Design Template dialog box, right, we chose our objectives. We kind of customized this the way we wanted it. Now, if I knew the module goal, I could actually highlight this and type in that goal. Notice, it is a dialog box, and so it will go, the box you're filling out, if it's a long line, it's going to continue to the right. So you just use the scroll bar to, move it back and forth. If I knew timing, let's say I knew this introduction should be about 10 minutes, I could highlight that, I could type that in. If I didn't know this information or I didn't have it at this time, on this field, if I leave it blank, we are not going to populate in the module goal or the time. You would just get the standard enter it yourself fields within the LeaderGuide Pro document. So with this, I'm going to click OK. And what we can now see is it builds out that structure for me, putting everything in. All right, it's also at this point building out my training at a glance. I'm at the stage still not going to bring in my slides. But if we look at this, right, come down to our table of contents here, right? It brought in building facilitator guides, all that information. But these are now all separate pages, already all built out for me, that if I was starting, if I was kind of building from scratch, I could now start going in and, adding in the different content blocks I needed and start going that way. So anyone have any questions on the process of kind of filling out that dialog box? Okay. And, feel free, either speak up, put stuff in chat as stuff comes out. So, obviously, we've given you some design templates to choose from, those structures, but you can also do it yourself. Wrong button. We're going to come back to this one. Getting to the Guidebook Design Templates, you can also get to it underneath on the LeaderGuide Pro ribbon. Wrong button. In the module and lesson control section, under librarian, so, far right-hand side, bottom row, it looks like 3 books with a little drop-down caret. If we select this, the first option, this will basically pull up the Guidebook Design Templates so that you could see it. You know, this will just, it shows you this template. If we went and did this again, it's going to add the whole structure to the bottom of the document. So it's not something you necessarily want to do once you've kind of built out the structure, which it's actually going to be, I think, the next talking point we have. But just know you can launch this, especially if you were kind of working on, you've kind of decided, I need to build out some custom templates myself. So what we can do, obviously I showed you we can highlight text and type it in. You can also come in, hit return, and add in other space for you, right? So I could come in and say, we always do an intro. In our intro, we have a welcome, and then we have like a intro activity lesson, and I could type that in. Now, the one thing when as you're typing in and you're building stuff out, right? So if we didn't want this to be present, but this was always going to be lesson 1, and then after this, we always have a role play, right? And again, we're looking at the lesson level, at the module and the lesson level of kind of building out an outline structure. So if you kind of have a defined structure that you always use, you can go through and you can set this all up in the right-hand side, on the left-hand side. And so let's just call this one lesson 3. All right, and I could go set these all up. As you're typing, if you're, hitting enter to give you space to put in more modules or more lessons, the one thing you need to keep in mind, for this to work correctly, these need to line up. So what's happening on the left-hand side needs to match up with what's on the right-hand side. So because I've put in this, a second lesson, I need to come over on this side and either add in the time, or I can just copy and paste that information in so that it's, it basically all matches up. So if they don't match up when you click OK, you'll get an error message, or you'll get a message letting you know right in this spot here. And just make sure that, we've got every lesson has a time section next to it. Every module has a module goal kind of block as it's laid out in this format, or you've actually typed in the information. But again, we're at this stage, we're just trying to create this to use ourselves. So what you're able to do, once you kind of have it the way you want it, again, and if this is something you want to be repeatable for somebody, for you to choose in the future, all you need to do is come up and select this save icon here. And when you click on it, it's going to prompt you to give it a name. So as I give it a name, we'll see action completed successfully. And this is saved into the collection that you're currently working in. So the nice part is, one person who's customizing out the collection could go in and set this all up, and then when they share the collection with everyone else who's using it, they would have that option to use that design template, the custom one that you built. Now, the way we get to that custom template, right, if I choose single, right, notice it changed it over to this objective, to those general layouts. But by selecting my custom templates, right, if I choose this that radial button, it opens up a dialog box that will show you all the specific design templates that we've built out. And you can select it, and when you click OK, it loads everything up in here with the way it was saved. And now, again, the idea here is that you set up the structure that you're generally using, and then whoever's designing for that certain one going forward would then go and update the names for this specific course. And then when you click OK, it builds out that structure based off it. So what we're seeing here, and I purposely did this so that you would see if you actually use the guidebook design template the way we got to it up here underneath the librarian section in an existing document, it basically drops everything at the end. If I did it to start off my document, it would have gone in and set that up going forward. It would set it up for that specific document. So as this finishes up, did anyone have any question as this is going along? All right, so now take a look here. That because I used it in an existing LeaderGuide Pro document, it's dropped it at the end of my document. Which is, how do we go about updating? How should we update the course structure after the document's created? Right, so we've used this guidebook design template to build out our course, to kind of get it up and running. And so I kind of showed you one way. If we use it in an existing document by accessing it here in the current document, it drops it at the bottom of the document, which in one way, it may be helpful. In another way, it may not be. This may be helpful, like if there's kind of a module structure that you use in certain documents but not in others. Maybe you do set that up, and your current system process is to drop that in where needed using this guidebook design template. If it just, on this random, on this specific document, I just need to insert it, I just need one new lesson or, a module and a few lessons. I wouldn't use this starter guidebook design template to drop it into an existing document. If I just needed to have, at the end of, at the end of this document, at this here, I needed one more lesson or a module, I would just come up to the module lesson control and choose this, which will bring up our insert a lesson or insert a module dialog box. Now notice here, when you go and do the new module in LeaderGuide Pro version 16, we've updated the inserting a module and a lesson, so we can put in our or in this case our lesson name. So I'm going to call it lesson 5. If I was, if I kept track, if I had the document set up or LeaderGuide Pro preferences set up so that a lesson objective block came in, I could type this, I could put in a lesson objective block or my lesson objective, and it would insert it into that content block if that was marked to always be put in. If I knew my timing, right, I could type that in. Then I also have the option, do I want to add another lesson now? So going this route, you could add in multiple lessons at a single time. If I say yes, it's basically going to, it would give me another one of these boxes to insert that information in. By saying no, I just need to click OK. It shows me here that I'm adding in. Here it shows in that I'm adding in one lesson. Right, and just based off of where my cursor was, it inserts in the module or lesson. So updating the document after it's been built out, I think in most cases you are going to be using just the module and lesson buttons. but I think there is a use case where you've got a current, kind of a defined structure that you want to bring into an existing document, that you may use the starter guidebook design template, but it always drops it at the absolute bottom of the documents, so you don't have as much pinpoint control. You would if you wanted to move it after the fact, you would have to do like the reorder modules and lessons feature within the librarian to do that. But again, guidebook design template, basically it's about getting your course structure into place. Just pull this back up again. Right, we're choosing our objectives or our templates, which we're then going to want to customize by highlighting, typing in the new name, right? All of those different things. If we want to save it out, we can save it here. And I would think the majority of the time, well, actually, before we get to that, if you knew your module goals and your timing, you could type those in. And actually, I don't think I actually pointed this out, where those came in before. So on this one, if you use that, put in information about the module goal, like I did when we first set this up, right? It drops it on the module page. It puts in the name of the module right there. It will then, when we put in timing on the lesson level, if you have it set up within your preferences to always insert a time block, it will put in the timing. If you left it blank, you would just get the 0 minutes in those blocks, and after the fact, you could come in and update the timing and then click on the tag button to have that tally up throughout the document. All right. So those are the biggest, that's the guidebook design template in a nutshell. I mean, it's not, I think it's fairly intuitive. You use it once, maybe twice, you'll kind of get it. A lot of times, the designing those custom templates for you to use later on, it's just you kind of looking back and saying, is there a kind of a specific way we generally build, so that you can set that up in those, in the My Custom Templates, and you can access them whenever you need to. Now, we do know this is kind of, it's a fundamental change. So what if you don't like change? How do we go about this? My first thing would be, you really should make these switches. Just start using it. It's going to make your life a lot easier. But if you didn't want to do it, a couple ways to go about it. One, and let's see, I'm going to come up. If we click, if we start a document, give it a name, right, just start letting this build out. When we come to the choice about building out a guidebook design template, and I'm doing this for while we're starting a second one, for two reasons. One, I want to show you the actual dialog box, but two, I want to go in and kind of just show you what it would look like after the fact if we went in to add in slides once you've used the guidebook design template. And that'll be my big market tease for you guys to sign up for the 23rd session. All right, so we get this guidebook design template here in a moment. All right, so if you don't want to use this, first option, just choose the top choice, manual, which is single module, single lesson. You get a new module, a new lesson. When you build the document this way, right, it would come in, right, if I click OK, it would go through, builds out my documents. I didn't want to bring in slides. So builds out the document, and what we would end up getting, if I come down, you'd have a new module and a new lesson page, which is what version 15 or version 15 or earlier gave you when you start building a LeaderGuide Pro document. So you can do it that way just by selecting manual. Option 2, if you're on this template, when you're starting the guidebook, if you just click cancel, selecting cancel on here is the exact same thing as choosing manual and clicking OK. You would end up with this, you would end up with the new module, new lesson page. Now, if you fundamentally just didn't want to see it at all, under the preferences section, you could go under parts, LeaderGuide Pro preferences, and come down here to the design assistant. And you could choose to not allow the guidebook design template. And when it started building it out, you would get the new module, new lesson, and it would move right into bringing in your PowerPoints. So you have that option. I will point out, if you go that route, again, not one that we recommend, but if you go that route, the new way of bringing in PowerPoints, which we're going to look at here real quick, won't be as effective. So, questions about not liking change or anything we've covered so far? All right. So come back in here one more time. We've got this sample document. It's got a new module, new lesson. I'm going to come in real quick and just add in to this. All right, let's go in, and I'm just going to, again, just put in a little bit of information so we've got it. All right, so I've got a goal. Put in some times. I won't do all of them, but we've got some times in here. So this is kind of just, I just wanted to have a document with that had a little bit of the structure in it. So in this case, because I actually added this to the existing document, notice we still have the new module and the new lesson page. So in my situation, I'm just going to delete these out because I wanted as if we kind of started from scratch, right? So we're going to use our imagination hats just for time purposes. So let's picture we've gone in, we've built out a document, you started building out a document, put in the guidebook design template, and when we got prompted about adding in images, if I said yes, I would come right to this stage. And we're going to talk again about all of this in detail and going more into all the new intricacies with PowerPoint on the 23rd. But let me, here we get the prompt about what PowerPoints do you want to currently have open, do you want to pull from? I am just going to open up a sample one real quick. Pull it over just so you could see it. So I could have, the PowerPoint I wanted wasn't in my list. So I could have gone and clicked Get PowerPoint, which would have opened up the browse to PowerPoint. In my case, I just opened it up in PowerPoint. So I can now just click Refresh List to show me the PowerPoints. So this is the one I want. And if I click OK, what ends up happening is it goes through, it starts getting some of the information about that PowerPoint file that we just had. We've got a little bit new interface in terms of our dialog boxes. At the moment, I'm not going to worry about kind of talking about this because we'll talk about that again on the 23rd. What I just wanted to show how the PowerPoint import works with the Guidebook Design Template. When we make our choices and we select OK, there's a full scan of your PowerPoint deck, and we're actually grabbing all the images that are in that PowerPoint deck. So that when we get our next dialog box, And what this has actually replaced the TOC markers outline dialog box that you currently have in version 15 and earlier. What we've done now is the document, when you go into bring in PowerPoint, import PowerPoints, add them, or at the document creation, it pulls over our whole course structure, which is what we're seeing here in the left-hand side. This is whether we use the Guidebook Design Template or had just gone in, put in modules and lessons, and then went to add PowerPoints. Here's my course structure. Again, anything that is all the way to the left are modules. Anything that's slightly indented are my lessons. But the idea now is I can just select my lesson, right? So in this case, my introduction. And then over in the middle column, you just highlight the slide, or by highlighting one slide and holding down Shift, click on multiple slides. You basically select which ones you want, and then on the right-hand side, it will show you what slides are selected, and then I can assign them to the lesson that's currently highlighted. So in this case, I could assign slides 1 and 2 to my introduction lesson. And then I can come back over, to my second lesson, scroll down, choose which slides are going to be assigned to that, and quickly just go through and assign which slides go to which lessons. And if we, just to kind of look at this again, once you've assigned them, if you were to highlight a lesson, it will show you down kind of on the middle of the the third section, shows you what slides are assigned to the lesson that's currently highlighted. If you wanted to remove it, you could select that here. But with the way we have it set up, we would just click Done. And it goes through and it pulls in all that information, finishes based off the choices we made about where the slides were going and where our notes were going. It captures all that information, and then it's going to drop it into the corresponding modules and lessons. We get a dialog box that says PowerPoint slides are successfully added. And now when we look at our document, sorry, I want this multiple pages. Right, so in my introduction lesson, I had assigned slides 1 and slide 2. To my second lesson, I put in slides 3, 4, and 5. So using this Guidebook Design Template along with, if you had slides and notes, you can be even that much further down the road of having a completed guidebook by integrating the Guidebook Design Template as well as importing PowerPoints and notes at that time. Obviously, we don't always have to start from PowerPoint, and you probably shouldn't always start from PowerPoint. But if that's what you have, here's a really quick way for you to get up and running. So this went a little bit longer than I was thinking. I probably went a little bit too deep in the weeds, but new features, very excited about it. Just also want to make sure you guys have a sound platform to start from. But what questions do you have for me? All right. As always, any questions that come up, please reach out to me. In the chat, I'm also putting in the link. I put it in at the beginning, but there is this will bring up our page, the kind of the release page for LeaderGuide Pro version 16, where you can obviously, if you already have it, just click upgrade and it will allow you to download it. For those who haven't ever used it and want to use the free trial, you can use that button. But we're adding new things to this to kind of get you more along the lines. Like here's some quick, minute or so videos kind of going over some of the features, things like that. But again, get your hands on it, see what you can do, let us know any questions, concerns, any of that. But if there's nothing else, have a great rest of your Thursday. Hopefully Friday's quick and you can enjoy your weekends. All right. We'll talk to everyone soon. Take care.